All right. Good evening, everyone. Um, we'll call this meeting to order at 7:01. Happy New Year, January 5th, 2026, which is, can't believe it's here. We're already here. So call this meeting to order. This is our legislative session, first one of the year. Um, the first thing we'll do is start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get into the agenda. So please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence, if you're able to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Oh. All right. And so with that, we have, I just want to make sure online we're good. There we go. There we go. So we're there. Folks can see us. We are here. We have an agenda before us. Um, are there any amendments to the agenda or any stated conflicts of interest for any of the agenda items?
I've neither.
Thank you, council member. Okay. Seeing and hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Worsnop and second by Councilmember Cologne. We'll go to a roll call vote or any discussion on the motion? No? Okay, we'll go to a roll call vote. We have Councilmember Smith does not seem to be present. Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos,
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion passes 6-0. Okay. First on the agenda, we have the monthly finance report. Deputy Director Jones, I see you on.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and members of the public. Tonight's finance report covers the months of October, November, and December. And we have a comparison of fiscal year 26, 25, and 24, as well as a year to date. So for the month of December, revenues came in strong at about 591,000, which is a bit down from the same month last year, but it is up from fiscal year 2024. Expenditures on the expenditure side, we spent just under 737,000 in December, which is also a bit lower than the same month last year, but consistent with what we've seen in prior years. Fiscal year 24 being almost exactly where we were now, and this reflects conservative spending. If we look at the year to date through December, we've collected roughly $8.9 million, or about 76% of our annual budget, compared to 62% at this point last year. Expenditures total about $5 million and are 43% of the budget, which is right on target and consistent with where we've been in previous fiscal years. So overall, the town is expected to reach its budgeted revenue as well as stay within budgeted expenditures. So yes, that concludes the finance report subject to audit. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Deputy Director Jones. Any questions or comments from council? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Is there a motion to adopt the monthly finance report subject to audit?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe, second by Councilmember Cologne. We'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos,
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne,
Aye.
and I also vote aye. The motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Deputy Director. Okay. Next, we have the correspondence summary. There are no items on the correspondence summary. Okay. Next up, we have public comments. Again, for those online, if anyone from the public wishes to make a statement, please feel free to raise your hand, and we will get to you in order. There's no one currently in the chambers from the public right now, so we will give it a minute to see if anyone raises their hand, and if not, we'll go to our next item. Okay, last call for public comments. Okay. Moving on, we will go to our presentation for today, which is the FY27 budget priorities, guidelines, challenges, and opportunities.
Deputy Director Jones.
Thank you. Um, Again, good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public. Tonight's presentation outlines the priorities, guidelines, challenges, and opportunities shaping the fiscal year 2027 budget. At its core, this budget is about aligning spending with the town's values, focusing on transparency, long-term sustainability, as well as fiscal responsibility. So fiscal year 2027 budget, we have some budget priorities. These are geared towards maintaining fiscal stability, transparency and decision making, maintaining core services, and preparing responsibly for the future. These priorities frame every decision that follows and does reflect a deliberate focus on sustainability. Core priorities. So we have a number of different priorities that we have identified. First being public safety, walk, bike, drive, the safety initiative, enhanced service for residents, community and economic development, sustainable practices and initiatives, capital improvement project funding, employee retention and attraction, and lastly, just priorities that we've identified before. Next slide, please. If we move to the next one as well, cover those in detail. Yes. So the first priority that we've identified, and a top one, is the walk, bike, drive safety initiatives. Public safety remains a top priority and is supported by dedicated tax revenues. We have highway user revenues, and we've carefully evaluated grant funding. And by carefully planning with grant funding, it ensures that grants are a supplement to the budget and not a replacement, which allows for sustainable local funding. Next slide, please. The next priority that we've identified is enhanced services for residents. So fiscal year 27 focuses on continuing the existing services rather than expanding programs. This budget is about reliability and service quality. And we will continue to focus on the excellence in service, maintaining the 5 E's, which are ethics, expectations, efficiencies, effectiveness, and execution, and by continuing to operate in an outwardly focused manner. Next, we have community and economic development. So in fiscal year 27, the emphasis will be on business retention, stability, and long-term accessible base growth. Commercial properties represent a relatively small number of parcels, but they do generate a significant share of property tax revenue. So protecting and strengthening that accessible base is a core fiscal strategy. We do remain mindful that development timing is uncertain, so we do budget conservatively um, when looking at the future. Next slide, please. So sustainability initiatives are guided by the town's values, and they focus on efficiency, cost control, and responsible management of public assets. Um, Rather than going at these efforts alone, we do have efforts built into existing operations and capital projects, and these are frequently supported by grants. And we have a number of those listed here on the slide, including the rain gardens and rain harvesting, purchase of electric vehicles, LED lighting in municipal buildings, expand community programs and events, and lastly, to promote recycling, composting, and other waste reduction programs. So the capital improvement program, it prioritizes safety, preservation, and critical infrastructure. The fiscal year 27 budget assumes that at this point, we don't have any um, plans to take on any long-term debt, which is intentional as a means to protect the operating budget and preserve flexibility. So this requires more reliance on pay-as-you-go financing. We're also increasingly sensitive to the state and county for the major projects, including the Purple Line. We do recognize that these are essential partnerships, but they do require careful planning. So as we move forward in the CIP, these are things that we have identified to outline. So fiscal year 27, it does reflect a full year um, cost of positions that were added in the current fiscal year 26. Employee retention and remaining competitive are some of the core priorities that we've identified. Of course, this assumes that, it would be balanced against feasibility and affordability. Um, Rather than having a fixed COLA at this point, we have a range where we approximately plan to land at. So that range is in the 2.5 to 3.5% range to better reflect the current labor market conditions while also still maintaining some flexibility. So the next part of the presentation, I'm going to go over the fiscal year 27 budget guidelines. So the fiscal year 27 budget is to be developed in the same manner that the 26 budget was, and that is through the Government Finance Officers Association. We use the Distinguished Budget Presentation Guidelines as a means to put together the budget. These standards do help to ensure that the budget is transparent, understandable, and aligned with best practices. Um, as far as at this point, we have received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award 7 years in a row. So the expectation here is to continue to uphold these standards and get the Distinguished Budget Award for fiscal year 27. Yeah, next slide, please. Thank you. Next portion is budget challenges. So we've identified 5 different challenges. First being limited revenue sources, securing funds for CIP, rising costs, grant funding, and revenue sensitivity. So the first challenge is limited revenue sources. So Maryland municipalities have a very limited number of revenue sources, which are primarily property taxes and then the state shared revenue sources such as income taxes and highway user revenues. Um, so, uh, with that said, because we have such a reliance on property taxes, there isn't much flexibility, but as far as increasing revenues, but this um, it's pretty much how we structured the budget, and it forces us to remain very consistent with being conservative. Also, this is where the state and federal policy decisions directly affect the town's budget. So um, we have to be fully abreast as to what federal policies are being put in place. And with the current administration, we're very sensitive to the fact that things are changing. Um, so yeah, the next is challenge that we have identified is capital improvement. So securing funding for capital improvement projects has always been complex. Grants are very important, but they are competitive, uncertain, and we make sure that in order for us to record any grant revenue, it has to be confirmed. There will be no assumptions there. Um, this environment also reinforces the need for pay-as-you-go funding, and it requires careful sequencing of projects. Uh, Rising costs are another fiscal year 27 budget challenge. Um, Even without expanding any services, costs continue to rise. This includes the labor, healthcare, retirement obligations, infrastructure, as well as construction. Additionally, we do have global geopolitical conditions. This includes conflicts or trade disruptions. So they do not directly set our budget, but they do influence many items, which include fuel prices, materials availability, shipping costs, as well as inflation. So these impacts tend to show up at the local level, but with a delay. And this requires us to be conservative with our assumptions as we move forward to make sure that we continue to be sustainability, to maintain sustainability. And I touched on this before, but we have identified grant funding. There are a number of competitive jurisdictions out there that are also competing for grants. So the town continues to pursue grant funding aggressively. But again, competition has increased. Not every application is awarded, and the grant timing and restrictions vary. So grants are treated as supplemental funding, and we don't intend on using any grant funding to support any ongoing operations. All grants, one-time money would be for one-time use. Revenue sensitivity. So revenue sensitivity means that relatively small changes in a limited number of resource sources can have outsized impacts. So in that case, what we've evaluated and identified is commercial appeals, abatements, development timing, and state distributed revenues, which all affect predictability. So this reinforces the need for continued conservative assumptions. Next is structural budget pressures. So structural budget pressures include a declining revenue net operating, reduced capacity for ongoing transfers, and a greater reliance on one-time funding. So the fiscal year 27 budget begins the process of repaying earlier transfers that we've had in previous years, as well as reducing reliance on them for operations. As the revenue net operating declines, you don't have as much to work with. So we're in the process of moving forward and planning for that. Additionally, one-time funds are used only for one-time needs. Again, that goes to capital projects and debt reduction. The next slide identifies some budget opportunities for fiscal year 2027. So while the budget is conservative, it's not something that we like to look at as pessimistic. Um, Opportunities do include some Purple Line related development and access improvements, utility cost management, contracted services savings through competitive rebidding. We do have some debt service relief with the payment of loans. We have potential accessible base growth, targeted grants, and restricted automated enforcement revenues that can support safety related issues. Um, and yes, that concludes the presentation. Fiscal year 27 budget attempts to continue align spending with the town's values, to continue to maintain transparency and sustain core services. At this point, I would open up the presentation to any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Any questions from council?
I have none.
Thank you. Councilor Merlingua?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Jones, could you brief the council, please, on the soon to be retired and the schedule for other debt that we'll be retiring over the next 3 years?
Yeah, sure. I have that right here. Give me 1 second. So while I'm pulling that up, what I can speak on and what I for certain is that we are retiring in the current fiscal year. We are retiring loans. Let me pull that up here. Schedule. Okay, so at the conclusion of this fiscal year, the PNC loan, which was roughly $297,000 in debt payments, we had one on the 30th and one in May, both for about 150,000. That debt will be retired. So what we have remaining is the CDA 15-year loan and the CDA 15-year loan. The 15-year loan is at the end of fiscal year 28, that would be retired. And then the CDA loan for the 30-year, that one would be retired in fiscal year 31. Payments for each of those are about 77,000 each.
Okay, and the first one you said we have an annual payment of how much?
So the one that's being retired is annually 297,000.
Okay, so after this year, we'll not have any more payments for that, which essentially alleviates us of a $297,000 a
Right.
year payment.
Mm-hmm.
A year later, a $77,000 loan is retired.
Yeah, that will be in fiscal year 28. So yeah, not the next
Yeah.
fiscal year, the year after that. Yep,
Right,
77,000.
that's what I meant.
Mm-hmm.
2 years, 2 fiscal years from now.
Correct.
Okay, and then 3 later is another 77,000.
Yes.
Okay, so that comes out ballpark 400 and
52.
change.
Yep, 452 for all 3 of those
452.
loans. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, and you said we're not looking to take on any new loans in the immediate
Yeah, at this
with
point
this
in the budget
fiscal
process,
with
yeah,
this proposed fiscal year budget.
correct. Yeah. At this point, we haven't identified any. But again, we're still early in the budget process and we're still evaluating things. But at this point, and for fiscal year 27, that's not, we have the assumption there is that we're not taking on any more debt.
Okay, and the 349,000 and the 351,000, 351.4, which is going to walk, bike, drive initiatives, and the 349.5 which is coming from highway user revenues. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
So roughly $701,000 that we're looking at in the next fiscal year to be spent on essentially road improvements and also walk, bike, drive initiatives.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Part of that would be CIP expenditures as well.
Yes, at this point, the 351,000, that's all been designated for CIP, and as well as the 349,000. So yeah, all of that money would be for CIP projects.
So it's going straight into CIP.
Correct.
Okay. All right. That's all for now, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. I have three questions. I can ask them up front and then you can answer some or all of them. I'm not sure the third one can be discussed now, maybe for future. First is, you mentioned that grant opportunities may be limited and competitive, and that makes sense. Can you describe the process of identifying grant opportunities and how that happens and what the follow-up is like? Or is that, and if it's not something you can speak to right now, that's fine. We can come back to it at another time. That's question one. Then question two is, just wanted to reiterate having some flexibility in the budget, given how much everything has and will continue to change. And obviously residents' needs will increase. I know we all know that, and we're working with limited resources, but just want to emphasize that. I guess that's not really a question, more of a statement. Third, in terms of promoting economic development and supporting current and potential businesses, can you describe what kinds of activities are supported by budgeted funds for this category? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you
Mr.
for your
Jones.
question. Oh,
If you want to cover Laverne's operation, and then if Mr. Chelton can handle the last question.
yeah, absolutely. No, thank you, John. That's exactly what I was going to say. So we do have Laverne Peak. She is in charge of our grant opportunities, and going about doing the research for grants to make sure that they are in alignment with the town, making sure that they are feasible and they're not adding any obligations, and that they actually work with us. So if you want, if we can have her come and speak to exactly what that process looks like in detail at a future date. Your second point, being that, yeah, we have to be very flexible due to the administration. I absolutely agree with that as we put together this whole budget process. And thank you, John. If Ryan could assist me there with answering that third question, I think that would be very helpful.
Happy to help, Mr. Jones. Yes, to speak a little bit more on the types of economic development programs aimed to help businesses, we have a myriad of programs. I think many of them, or most of them, we've actually renewed this last month in December. Those being like the Business Growth Grant to help businesses with renovations on the interior of a property. And sometimes that's used for existing businesses when they're doing an update, or sometimes it's used for a new business when they're coming in and doing some of the build outs required in order to establish themselves in the space. We also have commercial appearance grant program, your typical type of facade program where we're focused more on the exterior of the property to help attract more customers to the business to make sure that they remain healthy. We have a flood prevention and damage mitigation program to help businesses, and this one also applies to residents, but in this case we're talking about businesses, help them mitigate any sort of damages that might occur to their assets due to flooding that we see occasionally in town. Emergency repair grants to help with emergency repairs, neighborhood safety improvement grant program to help install cameras and lighting to follow best practices, including crime prevention through environmental design. So that program helps to cover some of those costs. And yes, so that's the I might be missing one or two, but that's the gist of, and those were the programs that we reestablished or extended in the last month.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, whenever Laverne would be available to speak to council, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
The only thing I would, one, yes, and we can schedule that for a presentation. The staff team does meet with Laverne monthly, and we brainstorm on projects and projecting out what projects that and initiatives that we're trying to undertake in the next several years. And then Laverne does research to match that with our work plan. To Mr. Chelton's response, the only thing I would add to that is that the majority of our programs, all but one, are funded by the town. We did receive, I think Mr. Chelton helped coordinate that. I think it was $75,000 from the state of Maryland for the facade grant program.
That's correct. Yes.
And then operationally, we put money in the development services budget for placemaking type activities, marketing, promotion type things, but not for individual businesses, but rather for placemaking in areas.
Thank you. Any other comments from council or members of the public on the presentation? The question I have, Director Jones, is around the sustainability initiatives, and some of the you mentioned sort of 5 that were on the page there. I believe these are sort of ongoing ones that have been there for a few years, but just wanted to confirm, the thought process, sort of how we got there, or if those have been refreshed or renewed in the more recently or anything like that.
Mr. Chelton, if you could take the presentation back to that slide.
Absolutely. Please forgive me. I had to look away for a moment there. Would you mind saying that again? Which slide?
The sustainability areas of focus, I'll call them.
Okay.
There's 5. There'd be 5 blocks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Going 5 rectangles.
Yep. Keep going up, sir.
There you
Right,
go.
right there.
Yep.
And so, Mr. Mayor, if I may, and then Director Lewis, if you can supplement my comments. So the rain gardens and rain harvesting, that's ongoing.
Yep.
And I would say that all of these tie to the town's value and the mission and commitment statement. The purchase of electric vehicles, that's ongoing. The LED lighting in municipal buildings, this is new. And Director Lewis, do we have Pepco here tomorrow?
Yes, I believe
And-
starting in DPW, this is sort of a one-time program that the town is participating in to have all of the lights switched to LED in PD, Town Hall, and DPW. And the town would sort of take over the obligation of replacing them as they burn out. But this is a program sponsored by Pepco, and we only pay a portion of the cost for converting to LED lightings in all 3 buildings.
And then expanding and thank you, Director Lewis, expanding community programs and events, that's ongoing. And having come off COVID, we've been standing up more things. And we look for that to continue. Director Lewis, don't go anywhere. Promoting recycling, we're continuing to do that. We see the composting word there and other waste reduction programs. Director Lewis, can you give a brief update on where we are with the composting?
We are talking with, at least so far, I'm talking with my counterpart in Hyattsville about Hyattsville collecting composting from sites throughout Riverdale Park. In fact, I was seeking their input on the sites that would be more suitable for it, given their own experiences in town. So hopefully we can button this up within the next month or so and come back to council with a recommendation for a contract with Hyattsville to provide this service in town.
And the last thing that I would say on this, Mr. Mayor and council, is that all these things are impacted by the budget.
Yeah.
And so contracting with Hyattsville for composting, we initially wanted to have our own composting program. And if the mayor and council recall, for those who were here, when we got the estimates, they were quite high. And so we were thinking that having these drop-off sites would be much more manageable from a cost perspective and also help get more folks participating, the participation rate up. And then perhaps at some point we could have our own program. But we will be in the budget presentation expanding in our explanation of what the staff work plan envisions here. What I would say is to the mayor and council, or if there's areas in whether it's sustainability or development services, any place that you would like to see a focus, please let us know that as soon as possible, so we can work things into the draft budget for your review.
Thank you. No, that's super helpful. And one of the things that I'll touch on the mayor's report in momentarily, after a very great conversation with the Green Team, is I think as a council, we're probably overdue for having a conversation about what are the 4 or 5 buckets. I think everything on this list is I don't think anyone's going to argue with it, but I think as we talk about moving forward, if there is a 6th thing that is really important that we may need to drop something, I think it's probably a worthwhile conversation, since we have not had at least in my recollection, probably the last 2.5 years, a conversation that's just on what are our 4 or 5 sustainability things that we're going to sort of focus on. But we talked about each individual thing in its own pockets. So I think the challenge with all these initiatives, especially sustainability ones, is that everything's a good idea. And it's more so you can only do so much. So but this is great to see the list. I appreciate the comments and the work that goes into it, and all the thought process that goes into the lead up to the budget. And I hope we are obviously reusing some of this stuff in their communications, because it's great and I think it's super helpful. I end up using it a lot when I talk to people who have questions. So let us reuse and be sustainable with the presentations that we create. This is really good stuff. Okay. Any other comments from council or the public on this? Okay. Seeing no hands, we will go to our next item. Thank you so much for the presentation. Next on the agenda, we have the consent agenda, which includes a fence permit requests at 5912 Riverside Drive, as well as minutes from the last few legislative and work session meetings. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua and second by Councilmember Worsnop. We'll go to a roll call vote on the consent agenda. Councilmember Foe?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop?
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos? Councilmember Colon?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion passes 6-0. Next, we have our legislative action items. We have 4 for today. The first one is about the lawn mowing and maintenance services that we've sort of discussed before, the contract for that. Is there a motion? And then we can have discussion if necessary.
Mr. Mayor,
Council member.
I would like to motion to authorize the town manager to enter into a one-year agreement with Just Works LLC for lawn mowing and maintenance services for an amount not to exceed $95,000, $589.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe and second by Councilmember Cologne. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember.
Just really quickly, I support the motion. Just wanted to raise a point made by one of our residents at the last council meeting. Ms. Katz just asked about whether it was necessary to be mowing all of the spaces in town that we currently mow, or whether we could maybe reassess. I'm wondering then, as a follow-up, whether we could reassess over the next year if it's possible to just let some of those spaces grow the way they would naturally. It may not be, given where they are and safety issues, but hoping that that could be something that we take on over the next year.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments from council? Councilmember Lingua?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. To that point, it'd be interesting to get a list of what spaces are to be considered, because it could very well be with some adjustment in landscaping, it can be turned into something as opposed to a grass-based space. It's more of a perennial growth space, something along those lines. I know we're looking at putting in pollinator gardens, throughout town. But it may be just something where, taking an action, we're just, putting in flora may just may work just as well, may be just effective.
Thank you, Councilmember. Yeah, I think I support the motion as well. It says get the contract, and I appreciate everyone giving their thoughts for staff to sort of think and consider if there are opportunities to whether adjust the sites or change the amount of cuttings or just, lengthen it as an opportunity, even if it's a trial run, to see how that might change it. Since this is only a one-year contract, upon renewal, keep that in mind for future contracts. Okay. Hearing no other comments, we'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Foe? Councilmember Foe?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop? Councilmember Ramos? Councilmember Cologne?
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion passes 6-0. Okay, next we have legislative action item 2 that covers some road improvement projects and our contract with our engineers. So we'll vote on both motions separately. So we'll do the first one first and the second one after that. Is there a motion on the table for the first one?
So moved.
What is moved, sir?
I would like to motion to authorize the town manager to increase the previously approved contract with Pannoni by $36,000 for road improvement projects.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Foe and second by Councilmember Worsnop. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember?
For the sake of those who might be tuning in, Mr. Mayor, could we get a breakdown of what this additional 36,000 is going to cover?
I can answer that, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Sure, thank you.
So we've had a very robust road improvement project this round, and we've added additional projects almost from the beginning. Once we had a complete and approved list by the council, a number of projects were added. And we, to the extent that the current contracts covered the engineering on that and construction, we were fine. We're at a point now where we need additional money to cover the additional engineering that's needed for some of those new projects, as well as construction administration that the engineers carries out to make sure that the improvements were done to their specifications. And also they respond to requests for information or RFIs until the work is done. And so they've asked for an additional $36,000 to cover this additional work. And we feel this amount is justified. So it's not itemized to the project. If that's what you're looking for, I'll have to follow up with that. But generally, it's to cover additional engineering that's needed for some of the new projects, as well as construction information and RFIs.
Okay.
And the list of, the abbreviated is
Yeah.
in the.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lewis.
you.
Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos,
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion passes 6-0. Thank you. And next, we have the second part of this motion around the ENR Services, Inc. for other road improvement projects.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the town manager to increase the previously approved contract with ENR Services Incorporated by the amount of $12,000 for road improvement projects, CIP 11 PW07, CIP 20 PP02, CIP 23 PW DO5, and walk, bike, drive safety improvements, CIP 25 PP02, for a revised total amount not to exceed $505,783.
Thank you for the motion. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua and seconded by Councilmember Worsnop. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Mayor, I would just ask the question of Ms. Lewis, Director Lewis, that the assumption being, and again, this is for folks who might be tuning in, that this is covering similar costs as are being incurred with the Peony contract?
Yes. In this case, though, with the 35% contingency that the council approved for the ENR contract is covering a lot of the additional projects, but we're short $12,000, according to the contractor's estimate.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So this is approval is to sort of raise the ceiling on the allotted amount.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Okay, we will go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos,
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne,
Aye.
and I also vote aye. The motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last, we have the first resolution for 2026. If you haven't figured it out, the numbering lets you know that. And so, is there a motion for Resolution 26R01 regarding appointments to the Board of Code Appeals?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember.
I'd like to motion to adopt resolution 2026-R-01 regarding appointments of the Board of Code Appeals.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe and seconded barely by Councilmember Worsnop. Any discussion on the motion?
Other than expressing an appreciation for these folks willing to step up and serve in this capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree as well. I know volunteering for our committees and boards are sort of the backbone for what it means to be involved in the community. And I know folks don't take it lightly. And so we appreciate everyone who has agreed to step up. And lastly, around appointments, we won't be doing appointments today, but it'll probably be done on a later date, later this month, if this resolution passes. Any other comments on the resolution or on the motion, I should say? All right. Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos,
Aye.
Councilmember Colon,
Aye.
and I also vote aye. The motion passes 6-0. Okay. Thank you all for the votes on the legislative items. Next on the agenda, we have unfinished business, council rules of procedure. So I spent a couple of days in between before the new year when I finally had some time and went through the initial sort of draft documents that staff helped put together that we clawed from various municipalities in our area and took a fine-tooth comb through those and actually feel pretty good about where we are, trying to hit on a lot of the topics that we touched on. So what I can do is we share that with the council probably tomorrow or sometime this week for you all to review. A couple items that I think people should look at. The document is on the longer side. All of these end up being 12 to 15 sort of pages. A lot of that is because it sort of lays out what may seem self-explanatory. So one say, take a look at it from the sense of if the entire council was replaced in an election year, which is always a real possibility, and we have a brand new set of folks who come in and they are interested in being a part of, government, this is the document that hopefully would be able to let them know not just the logistics of we meet at 7 p.m. on Mondays, these are the types of meetings, but also why do we serve, what is our goal as council members, and then it also includes what is our actual rules of order, kind of explaining some of the things in terms of the, motions and things like that. And then I think the last sort of part of the document is also covering the order of business. We have our agendas that we sort of follow and, through osmosis, you probably pick it up, but I think it's helpful to let folks know what do we cover in these types of agenda items since they're so similar for the most part. And so in addition to that, there's some other sort of like technical who's who and elements like that, but I encourage you all to sort of take a look at that and review it, and we can on a work session upcoming, red line and do some more editing. But I think our council has a good blend of folks who have been around for a while, more seasoned, and can sort of know the development for our council over the course of 10 plus years. And then we have, folks who are less than 6 months, right? And so I think this document should work for both, for everyone on the council, as well as, residents of the ask, who are we? Why are we doing it? What do we serve? We should be able to give a document like this and they could review it and say, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So it was a labor of love, but I'm not sort of wholly wedded to anything. If we want to adjust the wordings or anything like that, this is something that we have to sort of agree to because we are creating a document that we are agreeing to be governed by. And so it'll be important that we all sort of have ownership of it and it makes sense. And if it needs to be on the work session for a few meetings to make sure we iron it out, we can do that. But I would encourage folks to do the work of reading it ahead of time so that we can come in and talk about specific things whenever that session is coming. So, but I'll send that out this week. Any questions on the council rules of procedure?
Not so much a question. I think it's a great idea tacking it onto work sessions.
Thank you. I agree. We'll be better off for it. We haven't had one historically in town, um, and I think we've benefited from having a lot of not a lot of turnover on council, and so a lot of that wisdom has sort of persisted over the years. And so I think putting down what we kind of already know would be helpful. Okay. Moving on to items of new business. Are there any items of new business?
Well, actually, Mr. Mayor, I had one item of unfinished business. We could touch base regarding the presentation we had 2 weeks ago. Gosh, now, no, pardon me, 3 weeks ago. Coming up on 3 weeks ago, from CCAR CDC, regarding what's coming ahead for the development of the stopover at Kenilworth Avenue and 410. What they're endeavoring to be able to work with us as well as the other neighborhoods in around that area.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an ask from the CDC to the town regarding letter of recommendation to DCHD, as well as looking to stand up a advisory group with members both from town and from the surrounding neighborhoods for essentially providing additional input on development in that area. And my question to this body would be, how would we want to proceed working with the CDC in these endeavors?
Thank you, Councilmember. I think it's a conversation we definitely should have. I believe it should be part of a work session. I know I'm going to touch on it in my report, and then the town manager may touch it a little bit on his report. But I think it's a worthwhile conversation that we should have. I know the action item was there was some work to be done to sort of follow up on. There were a couple different asks that were made. There's some questions I know that our colleague from Ward 4 brought up as well. And so I agree. I think it's something that we can definitely add to the agenda to make sure that we touch on and cover it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Now for that new business item, if I may.
Good, Councilmember.
Because when they get up here in this, and they get up to this point in life, any year that they can go and they have a birthday that they're around to celebrate, so I think it's a good thing to recognize. And I would like for this body to consider a motion to declare this coming January 14th, 2026 as Pete Sparopoulos Day in the town of Riverdale Park. Pete has been, first off, I want to apologize to Pete and the family because I had him as being older than what he really is. And my apologies to that. He's not that old yet, but he's still up there. He's still a few years away from celebrating a birthday of a particular number, not just a year away. So, but still in all, when you get up to this point, if you're able to recognize and appreciate the fact that someone is still here, still participating, still out there, helping family members and all, run a business in town, it's worth recognizing, being that family has now been in this town coming up on, if I'm not mistaken, pretty close. No, actually, I want to say right around 40 years, being between Town Center, the store that used to be at Dumb's Corner when they bought from them, as well as the sub shop, as well as now what they have with Town Center Market, and what they've been able to do to bring in 250 barbecue. I think, and a lot of this just came from, Pete setting up shop here a number of years ago. So with that, I'd like to make the motion to declare January 14th, 2026 as Pete Spiropoulos Day in the town of Riverdale Park.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua and second by Councilmember Foe. One, I'll just say, obviously, what Pete has done and built in town is, 40 years is, he's an institution, and what his sort of family has done and the legacy we talk about our town center is, can't be understated as well. The only thought process I have is just around, it's more of a parliamentarian one, is since it's a legislative meeting, and this is one of the issues, and we've talked about the rules of procedure. One of the concerns that I have around new business is the idea of introducing new business that technically has not been advertised to the public. And so if the public wanted to strongly oppose, this is not a good example, but if there was something that came up in a meeting that the public wanted to oppose, their inability to know about it ahead of time makes something like this challenging. So,
Okay.
so I think it's, we have a motion on the table, obviously, to make that. And so my thought process, at least, would be that this is something that we should recognize. You said the 14th, I'm assuming that's his birthday?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah, I wish we knew about it earlier because we put it on the agenda. But I'm in favor of obviously finding a way to sort of acknowledge him, represent him in some ways. But I'm a little torn about if this is the best avenue to do so. But are there any other comments from council?
Well, in the past, we've done things, and there was never a motion made to do it. Was a number of years ago when Edward Day retired from Riversdale. He was moving to a different position. He was the executive director over there, and he was moving to a different office with MNC PPC. And what the town did was essentially created a document in appreciation of the service that brought to the town by being the executive director at Riversdale. I don't think there was I don't recall any motion at that time. I don't recall anything that was, formally voted on. But one of the things that we did was the proclamation had in it that on his final day at Riversdale was declared in town Edward Day in the town. So, I mean, it could be something as simple as that. It's just a way of just demonstrating appreciation for what, people put forward in the town. So if we don't want to do it as a formal vote, just declare exactly that, we can do as a direction to staff to recognize, on his, for his birthday, the efforts that he has put forward to the town to date in the business community.
Okay. Do you have a comment, Councilmember?
Just briefly, but I agree this may not be the best example, but I do support the point you made, Mr. Mayor, that in general, we shouldn't be voting on new business that has not come up previously for the reasons that you mentioned. and it would become a slippery slope to or difficult to try to decide like which types of new business is okay to vote on without warning and which is not okay to vote on, even though this case may seem clear to most now. So I would favor not voting on anything now since it has not been brought up in the past, just to be consistent going forward. To respond to my colleague's suggestion, along those lines, would it be possible to vote on, if you wanted to have it be a formal recognition for the next legislative session, vote on something then that would direct staff to write the type of letter that you were talking about, right? To recognize the contributions. It would be after the birthday this year, I understand. But then we could say, starting next year on his birthday, right, we have declared this day, in honor of him.
That's a possibility, but yeah, granted, I understand folks' concern. Yeah, doing something after the fact is, I'm going to table the motion.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Council, Town Manager.
if I may, I consulted with Deputy Town Manager Barnes on history, because my memory didn't quite recall what was done for Mr. Day. And it's our recollection now that it was a proclamation that was issued. And Councilmember Lingua, perhaps you can help me out here. It's my recollection the proclamations did not require a legislative act historically.
That is correct.
And so perhaps a proclamation can be issued by the mayor on behalf of the mayor and council in celebration of all that Mr. Spiropoulos has done for the town. And staff can, based upon general consensus of the council, draft a proclamation for your review. And that may meet the council's desire tonight, while still finding that balance of not having a vote on something that wasn't previously advertised. So staff just offer that as a potential solution.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think it makes sense. You tabled the motion officially?
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't have to vote on the tabled motion, right? No. So the motion has been tabled. I do like that as a suggestion. And that is something that we can, the 14th is what, next Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay. So we can, I like the direction of going with a proclamation. I think everyone is in support of it. And I think it gets the intended desire response or result. And if we want to do it by his birthday, which is next Wednesday,
Staff can draft something, and Councilmember Lingua, perhaps we can work with you on the draft and then get that over to the mayor.
Shorter than the Gettysburg Address.
Pardon, sir?
Shorter than the Gettysburg Address.
And Mr. Mayor, just one item on process. And
Yes.
I'm not a parliamentarian,
yes.
but typically when something is tabled, it's tabled to a specific date
That's right.
in the future. It could be withdrawn.
Let's clarify then. Motion's withdrawn.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I like that as a solution. We will go with that. And Councilmember, I appreciate you willing to help and make sure that the message conveys the message that the appreciation from council that's included in there. Okay. Next up, we have the mayor's report. All right. So one, obviously, Happy New Year. It's been 2025 has been a long year. In some ways, it felt like multiple years, even though it was just 12 months like all the other years, allegedly. But looking forward to this next year. I think that it's known that we have a lot of issues that are sort of impacting our community. But there's a lot to be grateful for, and I think there's a lot to be optimistic about. Earlier today, I met with the University Park, I think, Women's Club, which they invited me, the mayor of University Park, and the mayor of Hyattsville to sort of meet with their group and talk about what's going on in your particular areas and, any updates. And a lot of the comments and questions that came up were, applicable to all three municipalities. And I think everyone is seeing the real concerns around housing affordability and the impact to layoffs within the federal government, and what does that mean for your tax base, as well as food insecurity and, ICE enforcement. So the things that we've talked about in our community, sometimes I think it's easy to maybe forget that it's not just a Riverdale Park issue or concern. It impacts our neighbors that border us as well. But at the same time, I think there is a lot that I'm proud of that we were already thinking about, that other municipalities are trying to wrestle with. Our walk, bike, drive sort of program and initiative is something that everyone else was, we really need to get something formal like that. And so we're a couple years ahead of that, and having dedicated resources and funding and a level of focus on that is something that I'm proud of, that we can continue to work on. And then speaking of walk, bike, drive, I wrote a letter to the Walk, Bike, Drive committee asking them for a request. When I think about our committees and boards, and we have all these volunteer residents who come and do stuff for the town, they dedicate their time and their talents to better the community. And Walk, Bike, Drive is an example of that, of people who have specific experience with traffic design and urban planning and pedestrian safety, biking safety, all this stuff. And we've talked a lot about the Purple Line station at Kenilworth Avenue and East West Highway. I think even the presentation from our last meeting, it's a well-known, reality that that's a really dangerous intersection. Everyone has high hopes and plans for what that will be when it's sort of fully developed. But I've heard very little about what does great and good look like in that area. And so I asked that committee to be bold and think about what does great look like? What do we need? Let's go back to first principles and not think about or have to negotiate with current budgets, but just, if we were kings and queens for the day, to rethink about what that intersection needs, what should it look like? And so I've gotten individual responses back from the committee, almost excited about the opportunity for the task. And so I'm really looking forward to having that committee working with town staff to really sort of think about what that space needs. It's an example of something that there are very few folks who are actively thinking about what that looks like, and there's a void that's there. And I think traditionally other elements and people have filled that void. And so here's an opportunity for the town to sort of step up and have something definitive that we can then go to the county, the state, MDOT, Purple Line, whoever, and say, this is what we need in this particular area. We've actually thought about it, and here's a plan. And that will help us influence what we want in that area. So excited about that and grateful for them willing to take on that burden. A couple other items. As I mentioned, I met with the Green Team, three representatives from the Green Team, but folks who've been part of this for a long time: Sarah B., Sarah Whalen, Laura Katz, and we talked. It was a follow-up for a previous meeting that we had, talking about what my vision is for the Green Team and how we can better work with the mayor and council to be more effective. And a couple things I think were solidified from that. One was around, they spent the majority of their time doing the Sustainable Maryland certification application. It's time intensive. It's due every 3 years. And I think after many assurances that the town is sort of, I think, best equipped to do that, since the way it was currently done now is a lot of asking the town for information that they would put into a report, and that asynchronous work, I think, makes sense to sort of bring that in-house so that the town staff can sort of work on that. And so I think they've agreed to sort of let it go. But I think it'll probably be good to have a conversation about transition and just making sure that nothing is dropped. And so we're looking forward to sort of having that kickoff in earnest. But then the other is just with this freed up bandwidth, what is the art of the possible? And I mentioned the 4 to 5 pillars that were in the presentation around the budget earlier. As this is what the budget, we have money in the budget right now that's sort of going towards that. And I think there's an opportunity here for that committee to, one, be reconstituted sort of officially with the mayor and council, and then two, to have them help us as a council think about what priorities should we sort of focus in on. Sometimes we have a short list of things that, as things happen, if a storm happens, stormwater management definitely becomes top of mind. But there's so many different facets of sustainability. If you look at the Sustainable Maryland application, it's got multiple buckets that it covers. I don't know as a town if we've touched on or even discussed some of them. And so having a more concentrated effort on that. And so I think there's an opportunity to, one, find ways to bring that committee as well as other committees to have more regular updates to mayor and council. And then two, for us to have a conversation as a group to decide what do we want our priorities to be. We know there's a short term, obviously with the budget being finalized, but even long term, that's something we can think about as well. So excited about that conversation. I know a lot of work went into that with those folks. Rapid fire stuff. Responded to the mayor of Apala and willing to kick off that conversation. We'll get the letter mailed out shortly, but kicking back up our Sister Cities program is something that I know it's been in hiatus for a few years, but based off of the presentation that we had and some of the conversations, I think it'd be good to start that back up. And then lastly, we have a new partner at the county level. Today, former county council member Walla Begay, who was the District 6 representative at the county council, was sworn in as our new at-large council member. And so the council member Hawkins actually left and took a job with the county. And so his spot was vacant. And so she's sworn in, will take over the remaining part of his term, which is, I think, 9 months or so. So that being said, I've already had a great conversation with Councilmember Begay and talking about Riverdale Park, and she's really anxious to come and even meet with the council or an event and really try to find opportunities to get more involved in Riverdale Park. So let's keep that in mind. I've spoken to council member at large, Jolene Ivy, and similarly, she's interested in sort of, partnering in more things. I know she's very much interested in the our plan intersection murals around on Riverdale Road. So it's just an example of, we know the interesting situation reality at municipal levels in the state of Maryland, that the counties have probably the most influence and power and resources. And so finding opportunities to partner well with them will be key, especially for some of the goals that we have moving forward. So I encourage you all to, reach out to our counterparts on the county level and continue to build those bridges. I'm trying to do that myself as well. And with that, I will end my mayor's report and turn it over to the town manager for the town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. A few things. So Town Hall opened today to receive public. This was our soft opening. And we will have a ribbon cutting ceremony in the coming months. We'll probably wait for more predictable weather and have a little celebration out front as well as inside. Tomorrow, Ms. Barnes and I will be meeting with the new administration from the Riverdale Fire Department, Inc. There's a new president and a new chief. So we have a meeting scheduled tomorrow, and we look forward to a productive relationship to meet our shared goals. On the One Riverdale Park yard signs, 36 households so far have requested signs. And so that's a good start. And so if someone would like a sign, contact Town Hall, either by phone or by email. Do we have a special email or anything set up for that?
We have a link on the homepage.
Oh, and there's a link on the homepage. And so if anyone wants yard signs or the magnets, and I think we had magnets at your stations this evening. So the mayor's mentioned the Walk Bike Drive Advisory Committee, and the mayor's ask of that committee. They are meeting on January 12th. It's a virtual meeting, and so staff will be present and talk to them further about how to get that moving along. The town hall and DPW operations will be closed on January 19th in recognition of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. There's a Board of Elections meeting, Town Board of Elections meeting on January 21st. And that will be a virtual meeting as well. And they will be bringing an updated election manual to the mayor and council in a number of months, but that's what they're working on, is their recommendations for that. The tying back to the Walk Bike Drive committee, the Maryland Department of Transportation, SHA, is moving forward with their discussions about the pedestrian safety improvements along the 3.5-mile stretch of Kenilworth Avenue. And that's from 52nd Avenue to Good Luck Road / Campus Drive. And they will be hosting a public informational workshop on Tuesday, January 27th at the Bladensburg Elementary School. And we can send out an email to the council, so you have that. The Riverdale Park LMUTC Local Design Review Committee nominations that the mayor and council had approved have been sent to the planning board, and the planning board has now approved those. So we will coordinate congratulatory letters to those who are either new or continuing service, and anyone who was not continued in the recommendations to the planning board. Will make sure that they're aware of that as well. Staff anticipate requesting a closed special legislative meeting, anticipated to be closed. I have to make sure I say that correctly, within the next 2 weeks. And that's regarding current litigation. Some dates to remember. The State of the Town presentation will be held on Monday, March 16th, and that will be here before we know it. The fiscal 27 budget public hearings are scheduled for Monday, April 13th and Monday, April 20th. This year, I anticipate submitting a proposed balanced budget on April 6th. is the date that we believe we'll have that for you. I would add in response to Councilmember Lingwa's inquiry about CCAR and their proposal. Staff are looking at a variety of aspects of that, sir. And we will send a communication out to the council, and we can work with the mayor to have something on the work session at the end of the month. And that's all I have this evening, sir.
Thank you, Town Manager. We'll go to our council ward reports, starting with Ward 2, Councilmember Pho.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize for not being in person tonight. I truly like the collaborative process that we develop when we're in-house. Over the break, I contracted COVID. I have been symptomatic for 18 days, and I do not want anybody else to get this. So I look forward to our next meeting in person. And lastly today, I just was walking the other day with my wife, Levon, and our dog, Sarong. And Laura Katz has mentioned this before, and she can add to this. But in the 4700 block of Ravenswood Drive, we have a property that was purchased by an entity in Hyattsville, and the land was improved by plantings and rocks by an entity called Casey Trees. And I would encourage every council member and staff member to get over there and to see this beautiful little space that was created by Casey Trees. It abuts Wells Run, and it's just beautiful evergreen plantings, rocks, native species planted, and it just took, I don't want to call it a blighted property, it took an ignored space and made it absolutely beautiful. And I think that we can all look at that and then consider what we could potentially do on, small pieces of land that the town owns. It's really a remarkable little space. So go check it out and see what we can add to our wards to help increase tree covers, planting of native species, and beautification across our town. It's really a tremendous space. I appreciate the work that has been done there. And with that, I will yield the remainder of my time, but first, not before wishing everybody a happy new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Lingwa, Ward 3.
Good. Good evening, everybody. Here and listening or watching at home, whichever you may be doing. Really, the one thing that I wanted to bring up in regards to Ward 3 is an ongoing issue we seem to be having. Right in an area where we're looking to try and do some, considerable improvements. Yet it seems that we have a commercial entity that just seems to be not being the best of neighbors. That being the what's been referred to as the Shoemaker property. It's right there at the confluence of 47th Avenue, Lafayette, and Nicholson. Been reports of semis coming up in early hours of the morning, unloading, essentially blocking the road, along with other issues too. Drinking and urinating in public during the summer months, trash in and along the area. Staff has responded to this with the company. Police department has responded to this, to the companies there who are leasing from the Shoemaker family. And my thought is that I think this is coming to a point where we need to find a way to work with the businesses down there, because one of our mantras, we want businesses to be able to come here and do well and grow and develop. And also help them. and find solutions in a way when these growing pains, so to speak, are affecting residents that are right next to them uh, in, along that area. Reason I see this as a concern is because a number of years ago, at a business I worked at in Georgetown, we had apartment buildings behind us. We had a house right next to us. We had townhomes across the street from us. And we were just off Wisconsin Avenue, but we always made sure that, we were respectful of the neighborhood, that we weren't in any way, being a nuisance of any type at all, in that area. And it really wasn't, it wasn't things that we were having to really bend over backwards. It was just really some fairly straightforward things that we were able to do that, allowed us to coexist in that area. And I think that there's probably an approach over there that could be taken with these businesses so that they could be better neighbors. But I'm open to suggestions. Anyone has any on this, because I think we're at a point right now where it's really getting untenable. And I conclude my report with that.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Worsnop, Ward 4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy New Year, everyone. Good to see you. Short report tonight. First, I just wanted to support the mayor's request of the Walk Bike Drive Committee. I think that was a very good idea and a good use of the committee's time to think about what would be necessary to actually have a safe intersection for pedestrians around the new Purple Line stop there. So looking forward to seeing what they come back with and happy to assist. I did just want to flag follow up for residents in the Madison Hill community on the engineering report and the speed study. And I think there were a few other items that we had been corresponding about. I'll send an email to town staff tomorrow just to follow up on those things. Thank you in advance. And I will end there. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Ramos, Ward 5.
Happy New Year's, everyone. I hope everyone had a good New Year's. I really don't have much to report today within my ward. I did want to share, though, that my goal for 2026, since we are standing affirm as a one community, one Riverdale Park, I am working with Riverdale Elementary so that I can get fingerprints in so I can do volunteer work. My focus and my goal is to work with William Wirt, Parkdale, the schools that are based in Riverdale, so that the community gets to know me, especially when we cross over the bridge. Not that I'm against anybody else's ward, but specifically Ward 5 and Ward 6, where the apartments are at, Oak Ridge, Fletcherfield, Tanglewood, the Swift, the Currents. I just want the community to know that I'm here, that we're all here, so they could speak a little bit more on any concerns or anything that they want to speak about. Because lately the main focus has been ICE, and not saying that it's going anywhere, because it's just something that's happening, and it's just not happening here. It's happening in a lot of states. I was just in New York over the weekend, and I was seeing a couple of people celebrating what you guys know happened on January 3rd. And a lot of Venezuelans were celebrating, but a lot of them were still scared. So I want to focus on letting my people know, our people know, that we're still here to support. I did learn in Riverdale Elementary that a lot of our residents are struggling financially because their source of income, which were their partners, have been detained and are not at home. So the breadwinners are gone. So even though they're struggling, I want to let them know that we have resources. We may be able to help. There are, there's still 311. A lot of people don't know about that. Riverdale Elementary does food banks, from what I've been told, every week so that they can pick up food. They work alongside LAYC. I learned that as well. I knew about LAYC, but I didn't know they were still around the area. I'm not sure if you guys know about LAYC, but I've worked with them I've known about them actually since I was younger. So I was actually happy to know that they're still involved. But that's my goal for this year, is just to be more committed with the community and let them know that our statement is strong, where we are one Riverdale Park. And even though the bridge crosses over, that we're still here for them. It's just not one side, it's all of us. Another thing I do want to do is, because lately I've been walking around a lot with my sisters, it's kind of clean up. I don't know why I feel like when we cross the bridge is like just a whole different point of view. So my sister was like, why don't we do, I don't know if you've guys done this before, again, I'm new to the committee, but she was like, Mary, why don't we do something where we clean up or we pick up so that the community see we want to keep it clean, want to, it looks a little bit better, and it's not just the town center or where Whole Foods is at or where Chipotle is at that is clean, is everywhere. And I was like, you know what, I'll bring it up to see if that's something we've done or we're able to do. So, but again, my goal is to work along Riverdale, any school, any community, anything that's available. Just want my face to be out there and not just focus so more on ICE and them coming here. Happy New Year's.
Thank you, council member. And yes, we have done all of our walk and talks. We get garbage bags and gloves and pickers. And so I think anytime we're out with the group, we pretty much have an opportunity to pick up trash as well. But I think a dedicated cleanup effort is something that we can do. We don't need a decree or a presentation from council. Let me know and I'll be there. So, but we can organize something as well. We've done that in the past.
I'll definitely let you know. I'm working with, Riverdale Elementary. I'll be transferring my kids over. I haven't done it yet, but I've been going to the school a lot. And that's when I told them, I was like, well, I want to volunteer there. I know they told me this month they're going to have like a coffee and meet with the parents that are affected, like with the whole ICE and have lost their breadwinners. So they're giving me the date. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's either the 3rd week or 4th week of January. But they want me to get the fingerprints so that I can actually be there and it won't be a problem being available. So I'm just working on that. So I'll stop by this week to get the information and get that done so that I'll be available in time to meet the parents who have been impacted.
Yes, I think the fingerprinting is like a county rule, because I was asked if I could chaperone a field trip, and they were like, you need to get fingerprinted. So, but no, I appreciate that. Thank you for your report. Last but not least, Councilmember Colon from Ward 6. Do you have a report?
Happy New Year to all of you. Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to see all of us are here, unless one of our council member, Mr. Smith, is not around. But I hope wherever he is, may God help him. Well, for my own ward, I don't think if I have a lot of problem here. As Ward 5 is measuring about cleaning up, is picking trash and this and that. My area here, we have a law here. If they find you drop something on the floor, they didn't take it. When they notify the rental manager, they're going to increase your rent in that month. So everybody's taking care. So this is what you have to educate them. Tell them that when they find out anybody that drop in trash, parking lot, anywhere, he didn't pick it up, the rental manager going to increase your rent like $40 for that month. So that's why in our area here, everybody is taking time. So apart from that, from the end of December to January 4th, January 3rd, we have 3 burials. All are my family members. It was a heavy struggle, but God help us. We take care of everything. So all the 3 has been buried. So I don't have a lot to say. My Ward 6 is, for now, we don't have no problem. So thank you. I love you guys. Happy New Year to you all. Bye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, council member, and sorry for your loss, but glad to hear you on the call. Thank you all for your ward reports, and taking the time this evening. And I will say thank you all for, I know last time we were here, I abruptly left in the middle of a meeting. My son was in the emergency, like urgent care. He's fine. Has all the stitches that he was showing his friends. Look how many stitches I have, which so he'll have a crazy scar on his arm, but I think he'll be fine. But thank you all for just keeping the meeting moving forward. And I know it's not much, but as a reminder that I've already learned in the 2.5 years that I've been on council, that we are a collection of folks who are committed for this, but we all have lives. We all have things that we come with, whether it's sickness or illness or, things that happen that may prevent us or impact our ability to serve in some ways, but we rely on each other. And so I appreciate that. And I know we'll all sort of go through that. And so to know that this is a group that we can support each other is a benefit. And so with that, I will ask if there's a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved. Seconded.
You can't motion and second.
I thought I heard somebody say
I
it
said
at
a
the same time.
second.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Colon. It's not debated, so we'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos.
Aye.
Councilmember Colon.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion passes 6-0. We are adjourned at 8:43. Have a good night, everyone.